All right, my beloved Youest community, family, those who are perhaps new to this podcast and to this episode, welcome. This is such a gift. Lee, what an honor to have you and Kryon, both of you, all of you, to here today. And I just thought we would start with a little intention. This is something I love to do before we begin. I know you're not new at this, so I always just like to put a hand on my heart and just really feel into, yeah, beautiful. So and if you want to add, I'm just going to say, let this conversation really be a beacon of light and uplift every soul that is here listening in. And may it really bring a sense of peace and truth and love and expansion. And if there's anything you want to add.
That was perfect. I have nothing more. That would be redundant.
Okay. Let this be for the highest good of all. And so grateful and honored you're here. Woo, my energy is just, I've been so excited. I'll just share with our listeners. This feels like a blessed time to do this. I'm very thankful that it worked to have you today and just to share you and your wisdom and your story, and so thrilled.
We have principles we teach, and the fact that right now is a perfect time for you to do this and for me to do this, and we're relaxed and ready. That is energy that targets right through this video into everyone. And this is what we believe. And so we're not rushed, we're not antsy, we're not nervous, and we've got something to say. And the things that we have to say is your intent.
Yeah. Beautiful. If we could go back, I find your background so fascinating, and just maybe to share a little bit more about you, how you even came into the world of connecting with Kryon and your background, career. Like, I know you have a story. This is something I don't know that you planned. I don't think you planned on ever. Just from what I've read, I don't want to tell your story, but maybe you could take us back. I mean, I know you've been doing this for a long time, but really for those that may be newer to you or don't know your full story, if you wouldn't mind, Lee, would love to just hear how this came to be.
I will tell you, my story is my story. That is just all about me. But the bigger story is what we teach. Yeah. And that we are built to find spirit, period. This is what Kryon has told me. This is what guides have told me. You come into this planet and you're given the opportunity with free choice to find a bigger truth. And many people call it the veil or whatever. And so there are many times, I believe, when spirit gives us what I call the chance to look. And then if you don't, that's fine. There's no punishment, there's no whatever. And that's what I got. I got a chance to look. And the thing that is so much fun about this, and I want to be concise and want everybody to understand, I was an engineer. I still am an engineer. I'm still a nerd. So that didn't change just because I got metaphysical. So I'm still Lee, and I'm still the guy with, with a screwdriver in my hand and all that stuff. And what took place there was tailor-made for me. And I'm going to give this to you in a moment. But spirit knows who we are so much. I mean, the creator created us. We have a soul. It's very well known to the creator who we are. And so things happen in our lives that often give us opportunities to look. And I got mine. And the reason this is specific to me is you'll see in a moment, because of my engineering background and what took place. Basically, and just I'll tell you, this was, it was more than 32 years ago when this happened, but 32 years I've been channeling Kryon. But before that, it was 3 years before that. My wife, Jan Tober, my wife at the time, who is my best friend now and working with the Kryon work, she said, I want you to go to a channeler. I said, no. Basically, she was into metaphysics. I was not. We had an arrangement in our marriage, keep me out of your woo-woo stuff, and I'll keep you out of my engineering. It went one way, not the other. And really, I said, no, I'm not going to go see a woo-woo dude. And she says, first of all, it's a man. That was important to me because everybody who was around me who was doing the woo-woo stuff and all the magic that I wanted nothing to do with was a woman. They were all females. This was a guy. And so I said, first of all, the first I thought is, well, he's obviously gone nuts. He's stepped into the woo-woo world of the girls. I went to that channeler because it was her birthday. I sat in front of the guy, almost kneecap to kneecap, and he gave me good gibberish. And I laugh today because that's what I do. And so people who would tune in to hear my channeling are going to feel the same way. They're not going to get it. It's going to go over their head. It's gibberish to them. Who wants this foolishness? And I left. And it was a 45-minute session. I had a cassette. 3 years later, and this is, I mean, I didn't even tell her. What I really told her after the session was, here's your cassette. It's for your birthday. I don't want to ever do that again. And then 3 years later, another channeler, it was a psychic, a young man. He was in his 20s. The first guy was in his 60s. And she said the same thing. Please go to this guy. I said, I really don't want to. She said, look, it's going to be, he only gives like 10-minute readings. It's okay. Another cassette. I just want to know what I'm feeling. So I went to him, looked him in the face, and he looked at me even before we sat down. And he said, Lee, you don't want to be here, do you? And I thought, I like this guy because he knows. He must be psycho. And that's the word I used. And he just said, I got a message from you. He's been coming in all day for you, and we don't even have to sit down. Are you ready? And I said, wait a minute, let me start the cassette or Jan will kill me. So I started the cassette. So here we are, cassette in hand. And he says, there's a magnetic master named Kryon trying to get a hold of it. And I thought to myself, that doesn't even compute. That's nice. That's nice for you, my friend, but not for me. I'm 45 years old and I have a career and it's successful and I'm happy. And I'm not going to now suddenly go off into and talk to Zoltar or Dr. Zoom or whoever it is you're going to, tell me to go see. And that was it. And I went home and something in my brain, and this is where it gets good, said, I heard that phrase before. I heard the name Kryon before. Could it be that the other guy, the old guy, a lot younger than I am today, but the old guy, I said, what if he had said that phrase too? I found the cassette, played it, and he had verbatim, word for word. Now I had an engineering puzzle, logic puzzle, a linear puzzle. How could two men didn't know each other, 3 years apart, 40 years apart in age, give me the same identical message on an entity they'd never heard of? Now that is not solvable in engineering. I didn't have my slide rule with me and it wouldn't have helped. You see what I'm saying? And it drove me crazy. And that's the laughing part, because I had to know. I experienced something that didn't make sense to me in my logical brain. Here we go. And this is for everybody. Have you ever had anything where, where spirit is going to, would you look at this? Would you look at this? Would you look at this? Maybe you'll be interested. If you make a step forward, and I did, I got a chair out. I said, I have to know. I have to know. And Jan wasn't included. Crowd wasn't included. Me in a little room with a chair. And I said, Kryon, whoever you are, whatever you are with a funny name, if you're real, I'm going to sit in the chair, do your thing. And if you don't, I'm getting out of the chair and I'll know it's a fake. So I put a fleece down. That's the fleece. That is like, prove it. And I'm telling people, if this is real, if what we're teaching is real, go ahead and do that. Go ahead, because you're going to find things happen. Because what you're doing is open the door of possibilities of spirit to say hello. Okay, did you lose me?
No, but this is a really, if you're watching this, literally, I didn't touch anything. My video just stopped.
If we'll just keep going then.
Okay.
So the bottom line is this: I had the chair there. I put out the fleece. Cry and show me I sat in the chair and immediately I wept. I couldn't control it. Tears running down my cheeks. I was so upset at that. I popped out of the chair. I actually said to the chair, don't ever do that again. I mean, this was such a non sequitur. How can this happen? And it happened to me, and there was no messages. There was no writing on the wall. There were no voices out of the sky. It was completely and totally emotional. So what happened to me is I was filled with a love I had not really felt before. Not like that. And then I had to do it again. And then I had to do it again. And pretty soon the cause and relationship, cause and effect got into my linear brain and says, I can't understand it, but it's real. That's the point. I can't understand it. I don't understand it, but it's real. And so I encourage people, to say, and I say to them, there are many things in this whole idea of what we do and what we teach, and the idea that consciousness can be energy, and all the things that we are looking at. Don't try to figure it out because if you accept it and you start working it like the laws of attraction, creating your own reality and all, and suddenly things start happening and you go, wow. And other people say, how do you do that? And you can say, I don't know, but I know how I did it for myself. I know what I did. I just don't know how it worked. So then the last thing I'll say about this, and because I'm trying to make the story, is that this now I hear the angels all the time going, made you look. Made you look, ha ha ha, made you look. And that's exactly what happened, is that they gave me something to look at and I couldn't leave it alone. And when I looked, the whole world changed.
Mm. Woo. All right. There's a lot to even unpack in that story. And do you want me to continue calling you Lee and Kryon, or both? Or
no, I am Lee, and
okay.
Kryon. And occasionally, well, there is a definite meld, but you're talking to me.
Yeah. Okay. Because I can feel. I was like, do I call both? This is something. Gosh, I think what you said. First of all, that it was a feeling, it was an emotion. That's what it started with. And I love that you're an engineer, because honestly, that is the quintessential linear brain. That is, you're trained to think like that. And gosh, what you just said, I want everyone to really get this. You couldn't understand it. You can't understand it, but it is real. It doesn't mean it's not real.
Can I give you an example? And Kryon even channeled this. I mean, you go out and get in your car. And for those of you who say, show me, show me, show me, I only believe in things that are real. I only do this and that. You get in your car. The first thing you do, of course, is you go into your glove compartment and you figure out and look at the schematics of how your automatic transmission works. And the answer is, no, I don't do that. I just start the car and I go. Well, excuse me, do you know how it works? And you say, no, but it does. And I say, bingo. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Trust something that works.
Amazing. So I'm from there, I'm assuming you went from this great career as an engineer. I mean, talk about a totally different shift and turn. I mean, I hear obviously just a full surrender and trusting to really.
No. I know you hear that, but that's not what happened.
Hey, tell us what happened.
I was scared spitless. That's what happened.
Oh.
I didn't want to then come out to all my friends and say, guys, you'll never believe this, but I'm now talking to an entity from beyond, and my employees and my engineers and all like that. I didn't do that. And, they found out later. And I kept this quiet because I was afraid, folks. I am the Chandler. I'm your teacher today. I was afraid. I was afraid of what they might think. I wasn't afraid it wasn't real. That's double negative. I knew it was real. But I was afraid of the reaction of my family and my friends and my employees. I didn't want to lose my business. At one point in time, I said to Spirit, I'm afraid of what's going to happen. I think, what if I lose my friends and my family and all this over all of this, and that was me just saying, take me to a place where this won't happen. And Spirit, I remember the answer to that. I got it in the shower. and that was Spirit said, do you want to know me or not? Do you want to know me or not? And that was frightening because I realized, there's something bigger here. And I will tell you, in the end, I ended up losing all of them, meaning friendship. I didn't lose them in death. I lost them in friendship. But I gained a family that was the best family I could ever ask for. It's astonishing. So it's this and something better. We make up our minds what we want and the bubble that we're in, not understanding that there perhaps is something even better for us. It's like, dear Spirit, let me keep this job. Please let me keep this job. And then Spirit comes and says, you don't want the better one? Because we just assume that if we're not going to keep this job, they're going to fire me and I'm going to be on the street. We don't think about the better one. And so that was it. I tell you, I was so fearful. If you want to see any of my books, I have 14 books with 5 with Hay House and the rest are with me. And the ones that I published, including the original one, has my name is not on the cover. Lee Carroll is not there. And you know, what author do you know whose name's not on the cover? It's on the back, and it's in the back, and it doesn't even have my full name in 10-point type. It says L. Carroll. And I did that for 3 books until I awakened to a bigger truth, even than in layers of awakening, even as the channeler. And I realized I don't have to do that anymore. Well, I kept doing it all the way through my last book, just as a reminder of this story, to let people see this and know this, and what we go through. We all, I mean, you have permission to walk through fear and all these things when the awakening starts to occur. You don't just, a fairy doesn't come down to touch you and poof, you're different.
Yeah.
We work the puzzle. We're working into another reality that we didn't know, that nobody ever told us. People said, well, you were a good Christian boy at that time. What happened? I mean, what did you do? I mean, did you, and that question, people say, well, I got out of one box and got into another. I mean, that's how we think, right? So we stopped believing in all the things we had in church, and we get out and start getting woo-woo. That's not what happened at all. God got bigger for me. I kept everything I learned in church about the incredible love of spirit that I was taught. And then it got bigger, a lot bigger. So a lot of the doctrines that I was taught, including a punishing God and all those things, were swept away because I got a bigger truth. But I didn't have to throw away my church friends, or they threw me away. Actually, they didn't, but I didn't stop loving any of them. I did. And I saw the value of what I had been through in my church. I'm so glad I went to that church, because they tempered me and got me ready for this. So, we're very linear in how we think. It's this box, or it's that box, or we're doing this or that, not understanding it's something that flows. It can get a lot larger and more beautiful. And at the same time, the players start shifting and they start changing. And that is what the beauty of this is, that things start being brought to you because you're asking for it and living correctly and have a higher consciousness you never thought would happen.
Oh my goodness. I so appreciate there's so much in what you're saying. My brain is like, I want to ask about this and this. And I think one thing I do want to ask to start with is this fear, because I can hear sometimes people listening. There's a lot of shift right now on the planet, obviously. And fear is, is listening to, and I could feel myself want to cry just imagining all your friends and your life. I mean, that's not an easy thing to go through, to just to move into this life and have that change. I'm curious, what helped you in your times of fear, in that shift? I know it didn't happen overnight. What did you lean on? And was it the work of Kryon with you? Like, what helped you in sort of pulling the nuggets that can help others in fear?
I'm not really sure that my experience necessarily could be echoed on to anybody else, but I can give you the principle, is that the love of spirit is so much grander than anything that you could possibly fear, that you can rest in the arms of God. And that's what you can do. And there is such peace there. It's like I tell people, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what disease you think you have, no matter what relationship issue you might have, or what's going on financially, you can sit in a place where all of that is wiped away in almost a moment and just feel like none of it is important, based upon what is important. And what is important is a tremendous potential for the solution of all of them. All of them. I have seen miracles in my life. I've had miracles in life. I've had health miracles. I've had financial miracles. I've had all of these things, and not one of them did I ever think could happen.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they fell from the sky. And I have heard this time after time when we talk about people who start to awaken to this, what we're now calling law of attraction, that Joe Dispenza teaches and Greg Braden teaches, all of these things about if consciousness truly is energy and not just a mamsy-pamsy thing that floats in the air. If consciousness is energy, that means it probably has energetic physical rules. And one of them we have discovered is that how you think is what becomes your reality. Yeah. I had a good friend in high school who was a hypochondriac. We knew that in high school. And I don't know why he was afraid of everything disease. He wore gloves, the whole routine. I mean, he was afraid of he would catch everything. And then, of course, as we grew older and all, he was afraid of cancer and he was afraid of this or that. In the end, he caught everything and died. In other words, it's almost like he had a menu open and he listed the things he was going to catch because he was verbalizing daily to everybody. And the menu was fulfilled. And I tell people, what's your menu? What comes out of your mouth? What are you afraid of? And because every time you verbalize it into the air with this energy of consciousness, there is a field ready to bring it to you. And that's the truth. And we have found that is so true. People who are constantly complaining and worried about something in their life will probably get it. And I'm not talking about just disease. I'm talking about anything. I'm talking about, I'm afraid of losing my job. I'm afraid of losing my job. I'm afraid of losing my job. Guess what? I lost my job. Yeah. You know, I'm afraid of my relationship. I'm afraid, and it ends. And you get these stories constantly from people. And do you know people who are constantly in trouble?
Yeah.
Who are playing the same tape to you every time you call them. Well, how are you today? Well, this happened and you never believe this, but this happened and this happened and this happened. And they'll say, I think I just attract bad things. And you want to say, yes, you do. Yeah. You want to say, and here's why, because that's all you verbalize. That's all you verbalize. So I've told people with affirmations and watching what you say that it's like gold. If you start actually starting to think, it's not thinking positive, it's an energy of your consciousness. It's more than how you think, it's what you project with the energy, what you say, how you feel about what really is going to happen. You start turning that around and things start happening that are good, seen as positive by us. And then there's always, guys, and I'll tell you, as you start to awaken, this week, Kryon is doing a series that's going to be in, I'm quite sure, on my site in November, December, for free. It's a series of channels calling Attributes of Awakening. And because so many people are starting to, what I will call, get out of the box and think a little differently. And there are attributes that don't sound so good because we are rebooting. We're reframing. We're starting to call things different. We're looking around, and there's emotional trauma with it. Sometimes there's even higher highs and lower lows. Because we're transitioning to something we didn't expect, and it's not going to happen instantly. There's work to be done. I've gone through 3 or 4 or 5 layers now in my work where I thought I was fine, and I came in and found I wasn't fine, and there was another level to go through. I'll never be done. There's levels all the time.
Yeah. I so appreciate what you're talking about, this whole idea of a menu, just going back to that, and to really be mindful. What are you ordering? Like, what are you ordering on the menu? You said something, it's so interesting when I asked about the fear, and you said, well, I don't know, this is my experience, although, wow, this love of spirit is bigger than anything. I felt like that just lit up our entire interview. And to me, as I'm listening, in addition to, you were talking about, what you're projecting, your affirmations, what you're saying, what seemed to me to really also be part of this is this elixir, that this divine love, that spirit, that is the ultimate, that can, if you're in fear, because I think, personally, and I know others who've written in, I feel like I caught a fear bug for a little while. It's what I called it. I said, I got a fear bug, and it started to get bigger, and I felt like I know better. And then that got me into judgment, and I thought, all right, spirit, like, please just take over. Just take over, take over the wheel, take over the show. Like, I don't know what's happening. And I think, anyhow, for when you're in that fear, love that, these are some really powerful ways to re-steer, the car a different route.
There's even more, and we have to take into consideration our culture. And I'm talking about the Western world culture, whether you're in Europe or here or Canada or Australia or what. We have a Western culture, and that culture has a commonality, and that is mostly Christianity. And I want to just say right now, and you can write me letters or whatever, it's a situation where we're all taught from birth, from our parents, from our church, when they take us, that we are not worthy. Now that goes right into your psychology and it goes into your subconscious for life. By the time you're 6 or 7 years old, Bruce Lipton will tell you when you interview him, he says, is by the time you're 7 years old, all the receptors on all the genes have figured it out. And so here's what I figured out. I'm not worthy. Now it opens us up to being told what we have to do, and whether that's with the pharmacy companies or that's with another church or something. But we're told we aren't worth it. And if you get to the spirituality, we're told we cannot talk to God directly, and we're not worth unless we do something else. So, and if we don't, I mean, we're going to be punished. And so that sits on you right now, all of us who have come through that kind of a religious training. And if you haven't even gone to church, it's there because it's all around you. It's all around you. Maybe your parents, or maybe they went to church or not, but still, that is our culture. So what we have to get out of is that box. It's the fear box of the fact I'm not doing it right. I'm not worthy to try. What's going to happen if I do it wrong? And there's the other thing. There is no wrong. We made that up. Those are men's rules. We have a complete, total dysfunctional God. If you're going to believe in some of these boxes everybody wants you to get in that are religious boxes, we have a dysfunctional God. We have a God who created us in love, put us on the planet. You have the Adam and Eve story. And of course, one human does something wrong, which then is going to make all of the humans, the billions and trillions of humans from then on, are going to be punished in hell with their skin being torn off daily. And you think, and I'm making that up? I saw that on depiction in church in Italy for all the kids to see. It's in the church. It's a picture of hell. It's you worship and you get up and there's the picture of hell. What does this tell us? You know, what kind of a God is this? And that has been bought so completely by a billion people. And I'm wondering, at some point, they may back up and say, maybe that's not the full love of God. Maybe that's a little bit of men in there. And maybe God loves us better than that. Because otherwise, it's like a Greek god. I mean, why don't go back to the Greek gods? Because they were all dysfunctional. We do really, truly have a dysfunctional God. What if it was pure love, without guilt, without punishment, and all God wants from us is for us to find that love and change our life?
Ooh, I need to take a moment. I'm like, can you repeat that last line? That was so beautiful. I feel like that's.
What if all God wants from us, all the whole package, everything, wipe everything away, not what you eat, not what you wear, not which direction you face, or anything, is to find the love, paste it in ourselves, and live it. We were born to find this creator. We have the equipment. We are multidimensional beings. If you doubt that, why is there such a field called quantum biology? We are multidimensional beings, and we have a consciousness which is so powerful, it can create matter out of nothing. And they've been doing that in India for 100 years, and nobody's looking. So there are so many things that are mysteries or magic to us, and they're not. They are all centered and grounded in a beautiful creative source that we are able to hook to.
Ooh, power. I'm as I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking about when you talked about your first experience, as I'm hearing you, and I would say this to everyone, just feeling your words, it makes, I'm holding back tears. I'll be honest. I feel like I could just bawl. It's so beautiful. And to really sit with this is our birthright. All of us, any human being.
It's for everyone. You're interviewing me, and I've been doing this for 32 years. I'm learning too. And the biggest thing that Kryon has ever told any of us is for everybody. This is not for the few of us who are writing books and being on interview shows. And if it weren't, you might as well just shut off the camera, because what good does it do to have a few people doing this? Everybody has to hook in. And that's what's going on right now. Can I tell you something else? When I started, and all through my career, and I've had many layers of what I've done and all like that, I have been, the ones who have been attracted to my work have mostly been people who are done with having kids and all like that, and they're 40 and over. And so that's my crowd. And I will go, and wherever I go, whether it's Europe or here, and how big the crowds are, whatever, I look out in the audience and I see people who are 40 or older. And I had the big aha awakening, not just the fact, not here, because this is because of social media and all of that. When I was on the stage of the Habama Theater, Habama? That's not right. Habina. I'm getting it wrong. Oh, please forgive me, all those people in Israel. And that was what was in the film. And there were, I was on stage alone, Habima Theater, and it was 1,000 Israelis. Theater was packed. Spotlight on me. I'm sitting in the chair, but even though the spotlight is on me, I can see a little about what's out there. I couldn't really see the people very well until the pictures came back. And all I saw was t-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I was talking to 40 and under. And they were listening to me because they were feeling it. And a whole bunch of young people are awakening, saying, you know, this makes sense. These things, I'll take a look, or I won't, or whatever, but at least they're listening. And that's different. And that is one of the most different things that has happened to me, I say, in the last decade, is that we're seeing more and more start to look.
Oh, that's so powerful. And I know this is from the One Field, the film.
That's right. And that's right. And that they filmed that, and that's did become, as I say, part of the film, because they're a Jewish team, and this is a film from them. And I'm so glad, because Kryon has actually said, as go the Jews, go the world. In other words, they got to solve their problems, and what you're going to see there as they solve theirs will be commensurate with how the world is going too. And they have got an almost unsolvable, insurmountable problem, and they'll tell you, the adults, the reason they weren't in the theater, because they'll tell you it's not solvable. They will say, it's called the situation, and it'll remain. And the young people are looking at it differently. And you realize that in that country, when you are being grown up, you're being told who your enemies are. And by the time, again, you're 10 years old, you know who did what to whom, and who you should hate and who you should love. And that is the truth. Ask them. And so you're always, being aware they're surrounded supposedly by their enemies. But the young people are waking up to a bigger truth, because they've met some of those enemies who are their age, and they're looking at each other eyeball to eyeball and saying, why don't we throw away the old stuff that happened and create some new stuff for ourselves? And that is tough, because you have a history of who killed whom, who did what to whom, and why, and all that, and who deserves this and that. And you don't have to then repeat it. You don't even have to believe it if you can start again, wipe the slate and do something different. And we don't even think that way. But I was seeing a bunch of young people who were listening. And the message that Kryon gave in that theater, that said, you've been living in black and white forever, and color is coming. And the color is for the young people to look at each other and go, let's start this whole thing again.
This feels so pertinent to what we're dealing with as well right now on a global level. And part of, I'm curious. I sometimes feel like I can be a little Pollyanna, or, what's the positive? Like, I'm trying to search for what's the gift in what's happening right now. And I'm curious what Kryon is sharing that is for us to learn right now, because it's such upheaval. I feel like what you're sharing, it's like that's like the epicenter of the situation, the dilemma. And then there's the global, like, massive upheaval on so many levels. And curious, in all your 32 plus years, like what are we learning here? What can we learn, and how can we raise our consciousness so that
I talk a lot about and quick and all, but there's a lot to say here. There really is. First of all, everything that you're experiencing is absolutely right on schedule. This is not a mystery. It's not something new. It's been predicted, and it's been predicted in an odd way. It's been predicted by the ancients, and it all revolves around the precession of the equinoxes at 2012. For hundreds of years, the ancients, the Mayan, and more talked to us about what might happen on or around the year 2000 up to the year 2012. There was like an 18-year window there where something could happen. And it has to do, again, with the earth, and it has to do with the wobble of the earth. And you think, what has that got to do with anything? Well, remember what we're teaching, that consciousness is energy. The planet is part of us. Ask an indigenous, and you will see that there's a correlation. I mean, I've got science for you to talk about a correlation if you want to. So does Greg Braden, so does Princeton University. So here we are with a premise. Something is going to happen from the year 2000 or beyond in 2012. Now, take a look at the prophecy. What does your Bible say, Christian? It says that in the year 2000 or 2001 or whatever, we're going to have an Armageddon. We're going to have World War III. In other words, it was also saying the same thing. So there's been many, many prophecies talking about this area of time that was coming. I remember sitting in church and hearing evangelists tell us we were doomed, and it was going to be, we better get it together before the year 2000 because it was all coming to a head. So we all had a prophecy. Okay, so do the ancients. And here it was. If you don't kill yourself and you make it through the year 2000, by 2012, there's going to be an explosion of consciousness, the highest consciousness that humans have ever experienced. It's the next step. That is the ancients' prediction. That's not a new age thing. That came right from the ancients, from the Maya.
Yeah.
And you can read it, in their temples, on the walls, all about this precession of the equinoxes. So here we are, 2012 occurred, and suddenly things started happening. Now, stop a moment. We are in this little box of ours called watch the news and get afraid. That's all you've got. And that little watch the news and get afraid is your whole world. And that's perhaps why everybody's afraid the world's going to hell and all like that. And so we're extremely in the now. We're only about, we got a life that lasts for 12 hours. We go to sleep and we get up and watch the news. We figure out what's going to happen. First of all, my advice to everybody is don't watch the news. It's an entertainment media. They've got music and pictures, and they plan it, and they make you afraid. And if they don't, then their other channel will, and they will have more money because the marketing is that way. So if you want to get the news, get it on the internet from a channel that you like on the net. Read it. Read the articles that you want to. Don't have them presented like a movie to you so you'll feel a certain way. That's the first thing. But let me just get back to this whole idea of what's going on. Light is winning, folks, and you don't know it because things happen slow, but it's winning. I want to give you 2 to 3 examples very quickly, and I've given them in many, many podcasts. Is that okay if I do that?
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
You just take the mic. I'm like, all right, crying over here. It's beautiful.
People have heard me before get tired of these stories, but I don't because they nail it for me. Okay. First of all, let's talk about women's rights. Let's talk about not only women's rights, but the position of women in our country, all over the planet, and what it has been for hundreds of years and what it is today. The Me Too movement is something that shocked and surprised everybody. My father, for instance, he said, this is the way it works. And this is where women probably will always be because it's the consciousness that we have as men. And they will be put down. They'll be asked to do inappropriate things in order to get better jobs. They'll, and if you take a look at the commercials in the 50s, it's just a riot. Think about the difference and what has happened between then and here and the place. Well, it did change. And when did it change? And the answer is just a few years ago. Now, how can something be that's so basic? Hundreds of years one way where women are thought and looked and it just is and is and is and bam, suddenly there's an explosion of appropriateness. I mean, people are looking at a higher consciousness level in order to say this isn't right. They ought to have equality. They should be treated like anybody else. And it's almost like an I'm sorry kind of a thing. And now they're coming into their own. Now, is that just a coincidence that it happened with the time? I don't think so. I think that is an example of a higher consciousness on the planet. How long, I know, don't give me letters, but how long have priests been abusing kids? Oh, in Philadelphia, we got 1,000 cases. How many do you think have been on the planet? And how long has this been going on? And the answer would be probably since there was a church. We're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. That's what I think. And if you go back and find out, it simply was the way of it. Such an unconscionable thing was happening and happening and happening. Not only did it get exposed, but we have a pope who was trying to deal with it. Now you figure that out. That Pope, by the way, is also a miracle. If you figure out, I mean, he took over from the position of a living Pope. When has that happened last? There's so many things that you can look at that happened in this time frame to give us this kind of turnaround. We are starting to see things differently. I've talked to my Black friends many, many times, and they say one of the issues in the States is that something will come to a head where there will be abuse, whether it's from government or police or whatever, and there will be a reaction, probably inappropriate riots and all. They get our attention. The Congress says they'll do something. We all get excited and nothing happens. And then it'll happen again and nothing happens. And then it'll happen again. In other words, they're used to this wave of, oh, yes, it's probably not right, and we'll do something. And nothing happens. This time, it will. And you're seeing it. It's still going on. I mean, even to the what I think is probably not the answer, but they're going right for it. Let's defund the police. So that's probably not the answer, but it's scaring everybody who's looking at their society, going, no, wait a minute. We'll still need them to come to our house and put out and help. But it's getting the attention. It's not going away. It's not going away. Something is going to happen, whether we're going to start vetting our policemen from the academy by the citizens, or whether there's going to be whatever it is, it's going to have a more permanent answer than they ever had before. And that is us looking at us saying, it's got to get better with a higher consciousness. COVID has put us all in our houses for a year in some manner. And I'm being metaphoric. It stopped the world. We had a war, folks, without a war. Do you realize that? We had a war without a war. Yes, there was some death, but we had. If you want to talk to your grandparents and find out what World War II was like, this is it. Everything stops, and is controlled. Whether you get jobs or not jobs, where you go. We had a war without a war, and in that we had to come together and do things we never have had to do as long as I've been alive. You're forced together with your family in a way that you never were before. There's different ways of teaching and being and doing and jobs and all for everybody. It's almost global. Kryon gave an example, and with this, I'll stop this talk, but about this one. But he gave an example of channeling, and he says there's a factory, and this factory makes everything for everybody. And it has to keep going. If it stopped, there would be massive change. So it's cranking out products, it's cranking out food, it's cranking out. And in this, there are people who are coming up to the manager saying, look, this machine over here is not working well. In fact, it's a dumb machine and it keeps breaking and it's costing us a lot of money and we should stop and retool. And the manager says, we can't stop the factory. Old Jim over here comes the manager and he says, George over there has been pocketing a lot of the income from all the products. He just takes the money, he stuffs it in his pocket and goes home. And then other people saw it and he's giving it to them too. So we're draining money over there. There's corruption over there by your own people making the products. And the manager says, can't stop the factory. We'll look into it. And of course, you know where this is going. Suddenly the factory has been stopped. Now, what is going on right now is the retooling. It's the cleaning up of the corruption. We have a chance now to do things we've never done before because stuff is stopped. And there's other things. Kryon has said for years, we're going to see one big thing happen. I was waiting to find out how this was going to be. And in my opinion, it may be the beginning, the fall of inappropriate big pharma. Ones who keep you sick for money and know it. The ones who are advertising on TV because of an obscure law that they passed that they could advertise products like that. And that tell you you're sick and here's what you need for it. All of these kinds of things. We've been seeing this for a very long time. Kryon says that is an inappropriate thing completely, and a higher consciousness will eventually stop it. Now, that's going to take a while, folks, but would you not agree that that would be a good thing? And especially when you figure out that we know it, that there are many who have cures that are not letting them out until they get their amortization schedules right. Another 7 years, when that doesn't matter how many people die because they're going to get a lot of money out of it before it comes generic and they can bring out the one that they know works better. So that's working and has worked a lot in our society for them, not for us. And that's going to be something that we're going to see. There's other things that Kryon says are going to happen. We're waiting for some inventions when we have a higher consciousness. And it has nothing to do with artificial intelligence. AI, let it vacuum our homes and drive our cars. But it's
Yes.
our consciousness is a lot more important than anything that technology will ever bring us.
Lee, just from your experience or in connecting with Kryon, because I'm hearing this question of, so how do I raise my consciousness? Now, I feel silly asking that. I have some thoughts on it, but I want to hear from you and Kryon, because it's so important. What can we do? I mean, I know stop watching the news is definitely one of them that you said earlier. I actually can't watch it. I'm too much of an empath and I can't. And if you're watching, we're asking you, please do not, because it's sensationalized. What are other ways that everyone listening can raise their consciousness and start becoming more aware and awake?
Well, let's start at the beginning. I want to revisit that because I want people to walk away from this with one idea. We've been doing this long enough and on streaming and all that people will hear us say one thing and report another.
Yeah.
And they will say, well, I watched the podcast and we're not supposed to know the news. That's not what we're saying.
Right.
We're saying there is media that is better than television and is more accurate. Be informed, but get it from a place that is not a movie that's going to control what you see when you see it with music. All right. That's entertainment, folks. And it postures you in a certain way. They know what to do. They've known what to do for years and years. Get your news at a place that makes sense. Read it in a place you trust. Back to the newspaper if you have to, or it's probably online, from places you trust, and read it and absorb it in your own time. And then you'll find out without the fear. Okay. You get to a place and you say, how can I be more aware? How can I raise my consciousness? You have to mean it. That's the first thing. We're used to pills. We're used to taking a pill and having it work for us. And this is not the case. We have to cognize that we want this. Now, cognizing is for firm belief. For instance, we believe in gravity in such a way that we absolutely know that when we walk off a cliff, we're going to fall down. That's a cognized thing. It's not a belief. So I've worked this puzzle so many times where you say, okay, I'll try this and I'll try that. And I've tried this and I've gone to this person and that person. This is something you do for yourself. You sit down first and you say, dear spirit, you made me look. Bring me something, someone, whatever situation that's going to help me to achieve what I came for. Help me to love you more. Help me to straighten out my life. For people looking for the right diet, and Kryon has said, you're all so different. Don't expect one diet for everybody. You say, dear spirit, bring me the intuition to know what I should eat that is perfect for my body right now in this lifetime. And these things start coming in. And that is called co-creation. When we cognize what we want and start believing this is going to happen to me, there's a higher consciousness available, there's a loving God that's wanting to get through to me, I'm going to work this puzzle. I've got a ticket for the train and I can see it. And the train now is going to come in various stages and show me until it assembles itself and I get on it. And it may take a while. So it really is not just let go and let God, it's let go and let yourself find God in a way that people don't trust. They want other people to tell them what to do in order to accomplish these magical things. It's inside, it really is. Now, you may be led then to a healer or a process that is great. So I'm not saying throw away healers. I'm saying you will be led to the ones who help you in your condition the most. Because all these healers that we've been doing on Healing Wednesdays for the past year, we got 52 of them, almost 60 now. All of them have processes that help and heal people. And many of those are to actually make them more aware. It's not a pill. And so you see, there are counselors available, if you might say, to help you in your awareness. It might bring you there. And that is what happens to so many of us, is that we ask in silence to have it shown, and bang, in will come a name. in will come a show we watch or something, or a book, and we'll read it, or we'll go there, we'll go, I want to know more about this. And in the process of that, they're led to a higher truth. They go, oh my, thank you for you, healer, whatever. So there's such a wonderful place for the healers and of the new age, or whatever you want to say, of our time. And that's what they're doing. They're helping you to increase your awareness.
If I can just add for a minute, what's so cool about this, first of all, I love what you're saying. It goes back to first of all, we all have that innate connection to spirit. It's within, it's an inside job. And it's funny, I'm laughing because this is a few years ago. I've been connecting to my intuition and what's right to eat, and what do I need to really to be Julie with spirit. And this is the question, I think, for all of us: how do we embody spirit as us? And a friend of mine, my friend Lauren, was like, you should check out Kryon. And I'm like, I don't know who that is. And I heard you, and I was like, oh my gosh, what this, my whole body. I was like, okay. And I'm laughing, and I'm grateful, because it's one of those moments I'm like, thank you, spirit. Like, clearly, you've had that impact on millions and millions. And I think like you said, let your inner spirit guide, intuition, let that guide you on all of it. And it's going to be different for each of us. Just like
it is. We think entirely different. We've had healers on our show, that real healers, that were that dealt mainly with energy from computer programs they developed that interface with consciousness. I mean, it sounds magic and crazy. It works. It works. Yeah. And there's something for everybody. And some people would look at that and go, it's not for me. And then somebody else will come along who deals with the plants of the planet and the herbology and things like that. They'll go, this is what I want. So there's something for everybody. And this is back to the engineer that I was, that none of that would have worked for me, but I had a logic puzzle. And this is the fun part that I go back to the beginning now, is that spirit knows you so well and intimately, just waiting for you to sit down and say, bring it.
That's awesome. And then watch what happens. Yeah. Right. If it's okay, I have one or two quick questions that
okay.
For those who are newer to Kryon, and I guess my curiosity is, I know you always say, or it says, of magnetic service. Maybe just number one, do you get an image of this consciousness? Is it more of a feeling? And what does that mean, magnetic service?
I'll tell you just briefly, you can look it up if you wish. And I didn't know. I had no idea. People wanted to know, what do I have? An angel I can stick on the refrigerator? And the answer is no. There's nothing to do with that. And I didn't know. And I didn't know until the late, I would say, 90s into the year 2000. And all then I had this aha. It's something that we were going to discover that has led me right now to even the one field. It was called, there were two experiments on this planet ongoing. One of them was called the Global Coherence Initiative by HeartMath. It's still there today. You can take a look at it. Greg Braden is on their board. He knows about it. He'll talk about it. They had an experiment going on where they had magnetic sensors all over the planet measuring the strength of the magnetic grid. The idea that they had, God bless them, this is one of their intuitions, and they spent money, is this: if something happens globally that everybody can see and feel, would it change the magnetic grid's strength? Now, if it did, it would be absolute 100% proof that consciousness is physics. You see that? And it did. At 9/11, they didn't expect this. At 9/11, not only did all their sensors pick it up, but 2 satellites in orbit that measure the strength of the magnetic grid picked it up. It went 3 times the strength immediately, right after the planes hit those towers. Actually, a little before, that changed the magnetic grid of the planet. And it wasn't a onesie. It happened again in a couple other places. I think one was Death of Princess Di. There was a total and complete proven relationship between the strength of the magnetic grid going up and down and a global event. This is what Lynn McTaggart has been working with for so long. She knows that this is very doable, that consciousness affects things in other places. And so only then that I realized it was the magnetic grid all along that Kryon has been talking about, that contains, that's the bubble of consciousness for us. It works with our consciousness. There's something to do with magnetics and our consciousness that's correlated. And that pegged it for me. And then I knew that's the magnetic master, because there's something there. We haven't discovered it yet. That's going to be probably part of what we do. Magnetics, Kryon says, is the future of all energy. And that we actually have free energy now, but nobody's looking at it, and nobody's developing, and nobody's seeing it, but it's all over. And it's very obvious. You've got magnetics that push and pull, so you can't even pull them apart. And and it's natural. It's it'll go for 4,000 years. You come back and still pushing and pulling. Folks, maybe that ought to push and pull in something you can, an engine or something, and not use one drop of fossil fuel. Kryon talks about it being the future of how our transportation will be, all that. That's where the magnetic master came in. So way before its time, people will look back someday and realize the joke. and I'm just now seeing.
Oh, thank you for tying that together. I'm a huge fan. We've had Dr. Debbie Rosman and Ron McCready and talking about this. I didn't put that together until you said that about the global.
I didn't either. And that was the big aha. I laughed for so long. I went, now I know.
My mind, I don't like to say is blown, because I'm like, I don't want that. It's blown. It's glowing. My mind is like,
right.
Beautiful.
I like to mention, folks, it's all provable science. So is the Global Consciousness Project with Princeton, where they talked about random things becoming suddenly synchronized at the same time that 9/11 happened. In other words, consciousness may be a tremendous physical energy. We don't even know the rules of it yet. We're just discovering what we can do with our lives, and you got Star Trek that they make meals out of. And they're in India, and I'll just say, we know that there are certain masters in the past who have actually been able to manifest masters manifesting material and matter with their consciousness, and that's been photographed and known and all. I don't know why that was never on CNN. I guess we just figure it's stuff that's magic and doesn't matter, and we don't care. But it's been with us for so long. Greg Braden will tell you, we have a solution to almost every problem today, and we've known it for a very, very long time. It's just nobody let it out because it wasn't time.
Well, I know we're ready. I'm ready. I know anyone listening, we're like you said, Spirit, bring it, please bring it. Last question would just be, I call them heart flares. If there's anything I didn't ask you, or anything in your heart that you would like to share with our listeners.
Yes, I will tell you that there's one thing that I would like to tell everybody, that the secret, it's not really a secret. It's the most sacred thing you can be and do and look to, and that's joy. Joy is sacred. And the more you laugh and the more excited you are about these kinds of joyful things, it starts to heal your heart, clear your mind, and then you start getting solutions that fear has blocked. So be joyful as much as you can, laugh as much as you can. And you've had situations, I know, where when you all laughed together, suddenly all the barriers came down and you were able to hug each other and all that stuff. That's what I'm talking about. And it's more than just an elixir, it's sacred. It's sacred. It's God-given for that reason. So be joyful.
It has been a complete joy. My cheeks are hurting from smiling, and delight and honor. Lee, you are just a gift, a gem. Thank you so much. This is beautiful.
All right.